I used to think Baltimore was an in-between city, too big to feel quiet, too small to feel like it mattered. A place people passed through on their way to something better. I never expected it to be the place that changed everything for me, that cracked open my life like a window after years of stale air, that I'd fall in love here, that love would feel like both salvation and danger at the same time. And my name is Emily Carter, I'm 26. And the story really begins on a Monday morning that felt like every other Monday morning I'd survived. Stale coffee, weak sunlight through my apartment window, and a faint hum of traffic drifting up from Calvert Street. Nothing special, except it was the day I met him, the day everything shifted. I worked as a receptionist in a small physical therapy clinic downtown, the starting point of the career I kept promising myself I'd figure out next year. My boss, Dr. Matthews, was kind but scattered, the type of man who could treat 5 patients at once but couldn't find his phone charger if it was taped to his forehead. So I was the unofficial everything: scheduler, insurance decoder, emotional support animal. At 9:17 a.m., the front door chimed and a gust of cold air swept in with a man I'd never seen before. I looked up, and for a second I forgot how to breathe. Wasn't classically handsome, not in the polished, magazine way, but he had this presence. Dark denim jacket, slightly messy black hair, eyes the color of Atlantic storm water. His jaw was strong but shadowed like he hadn't slept. Or maybe he just didn't care to shave. He paused in the doorway like he wasn't sure he belonged there. "Hi," I managed. "Can I help you?" He walked up to the counter, pulling a slightly crumpled referral form from his pocket. Yeah. I'm supposed to start physical therapy? Car accident." His voice was low, a little rough at the edges. The type of voice that sounded like it had stories it wasn't ready to tell. I took the paper from him. "Name?" "Nathan Hale." I typed it in, pretending my hands weren't suddenly stupid. The computer beeped. His appointment existed, which meant he wasn't some lost stranger accidentally walking into my life. He was supposed to be here. How bad was the accident? I asked. He shrugged one shoulder, but something flickered in his eyes, something guarded. "Bad enough." I felt the weight beneath that. A quiet heaviness. "Well, you're in the right place," I said gently. "You'll like it here." His eyes lifted to mine, and something in my chest tightened. Not a spark. Something deeper. A recognition I couldn't explain, like I'd felt this moment before, but in another life. Nathan came to the clinic 3 times a week. At first he was quiet, always wearing the same denim jacket, always leaving as quickly as he arrived. But he had this gravity. Patients noticed him. The staff noticed him. I noticed him most of all, not because he flirted, he didn't, not because he tried to impress anyone, he didn't, but because he looked like a man carrying something heavy that no one else could see. In the beginning, we talked about simple things: his physical therapy exercises, the insane Baltimore weather, the fact that the clinic radio only played music from the early 2000s because Dr. Matthews refused to update anything. But slowly, in tiny, accidental pieces, Nathan let more slip. He'd been out of work since the accident, didn't talk to his family much. He'd moved to Baltimore only 8 months earlier. He lived alone in a small apartment near the harbor. He didn't volunteer anything deeper. But I felt the outline of missing pieces. One afternoon, when the lobby was empty, he paused at the front desk. "Do you ever get the feeling you ended up somewhere you weren't planning to be?" he asked suddenly. It startled me, the directness of it. "All the time," I admitted. "I think most people do." He nodded slowly. "Yeah. Maybe." His gaze drifted toward the window, where the sky had turned the color of bruised peaches. For a moment, he looked lost, and I wanted, inexplicably, to pull him back. The first twist in our story wasn't romantic. It wasn't even dramatic. It was simple. Nathan smiled. Actually smiled. It happened 3 weeks after I met him, when a little girl in a pink jacket, waiting for her mom, offered him one of her gummy bears. He took it, thanked her, and when he turned away, his mouth curved into a smile so soft and real it felt like a private sunrise. Never realized how much I wanted to see that smile until it happened. Finally, I teased later. A Nathan Hale smile. "I was starting to think you were incapable." He chuckled, an actual laugh, and I swear it warmed the room. You just didn't give me a reason before. Was that flirting? Because it felt like flirting. He didn't walk away immediately that day. He leaned against the counter, asked me about my weekend plans, listened like my words actually mattered, and then, do you ever go down to the harbor? At night, I mean. Sometimes. Maybe, he hesitated, then finished softly, you could show me your favorite spot? My heart wasn't beating, it was sprinting. I'd like that, I said. It was a Thursday when we met at the harbor. The kind of night where the air smelled like salt and old wooden piers and something almost electric. Nathan was already there, leaning against the railing, city lights reflecting off the water. He looked different in the night, softer, less guarded. You came, he said. You asked. We walked slowly, talking about nothing and everything, childhood memories, the worst jobs we ever had, the foods we hated for no logical reason. He told me he loved thunderstorms, because they made the world sound loud enough to match his mind. At one point, he asked, do you ever feel like you're rebuilding yourself? Like you're trying to become someone better than who you were? Yes, I whispered. Every day. He breathed in sharply, like my answer surprised him or mattered. Without thinking, I reached for his hand. He didn't pull away, he held mine back, and something inside me shifted, something big, something dangerous. Love doesn't come gently, not the real kind. It crashes like a quiet thunder, but the night at the harbor wasn't the twist came later, when I discovered who Nathan really was, and who he was running from. But before the truth unraveled, there were soft days. Days where love felt simple, like it was blooming without effort. Days where I convinced myself nothing could break it. Had no idea how wrong I was. Falling for Nathan felt like walking into warm light. Then the weeks that followed felt like trying to hold that light in my bare hands, precious, blinding, and somehow fragile. The thing about quiet men is that when they love, they don't do it halfway. Not Nathan. Showed it in every small detail. The way he'd wait outside the clinic just to walk me to the bus stop, the way he texted goodnight as if he were worried sleep might take me away, the way his fingers brushed mine like he was afraid I would disappear if he touched me too hard. But the more I learned about him, the more I sensed something beneath the surface, something he never said, something heavy. Nathan hated talking about his past. That was the first red flag I ignored, not because I didn't notice it, I noticed everything, but because I didn't want anything to ruin the way he made me feel. Didn't avoid the topic openly. He didn't lie. He just deflected. Whenever I asked about where he'd grown up, he would smile a little and say, different places. When I asked about his family, he would say, it's complicated. And when I asked about the car accident, the one that brought him into the clinic, his eyes would turn stormy, and he'd murmur, it's fine. I'm fine. It's over. Except nothing about that felt true. Real pain leaves shadows. His shadows always followed him. Still, I told myself everyone has secrets. Had mine too. So I let him take his time. Let him come to me at his own pace. And he did, slowly. Like a man learning how to breathe again. It happened on a rainy Sunday afternoon. We're in my apartment, sitting on the couch with a cheap blanket around our legs and a movie playing quietly in the background. Nathan had fallen silent, more than usual, and something about the stillness felt wrong. Then he whispered, I used to drive when I couldn't sleep. I turned to him, surprised by the confession. Before the accident? I asked. He nodded, eyes unfocused. Yeah. I'd get in my truck and just drive. No destination. No plan. Just roads. It was the only time my head didn't feel too loud. I kept quiet, not wanting to break the moment. I was driving that night too, he said. Just trying to clear my mind. I didn't see the other car until it was too late. He swallowed hard. For a second, I thought he was going to cry. It wasn't your fault, I whispered. His jaw tightened. You don't know that. But I did know. I knew it in my gut. Trauma speaks in guilt. His voice was heavy with it. So I took his hand. He let me. And when he leaned his forehead against mine, I thought things were finally opening, but I didn't know the full story, not yet. 2 weeks later, it happened, the thing that made me realize everything between us was about to change. Nathan didn't come to his appointment. It wasn't like him. He wasn't the kind of man to disappear without a word. He wasn't unreliable, he wasn't careless. Something was wrong. At first, I assumed he overslept or had a scheduling issue. But when he didn't answer my text, or the second one, panic flickered in my chest. By the time the clinic closed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had happened, so I made a decision I hadn't made before, went to his apartment. It was a small brick building near the harbor, old but clean. His unit was on the 3rd floor. I climbed the stairs fast enough to feel my heartbeat in my throat, but when I knocked, no one answered. Nathan? Another knock, another silence. My stomach twisted. I tried the doorknob, not expecting it to turn, but it did click. The door opened 2 inches, unlocked, and that was when dread poured through me. Nathan? I whispered again, pushing the door open. The lights were off, the air was cold, his denim jacket was on the chair, his keys were on the kitchen table, but he wasn't there. I walked deeper inside, my hands trembling. The room smelled faintly of cedar and something metallic, stress sweat, maybe. Something human. Something raw. Then I saw it, a folder. Half open, papers spilled across the desk like someone had rifled through them in a hurry. It wasn't my place to look, but fear makes you cross lines you never thought you would. So I leaned over. There were documents, police forms, medical statements, and a photograph paper clipped to the top. A woman. Mid-30s, dark hair. Smiling. My stomach dropped. Under the photo was a line of text. I barely registered the rest. Something about a hit and run, something about charges, something about ongoing investigation. Before my breath caught in my throat, his sister was killed in a hit and run. But that's not what froze me. It was the note scribbled in the corner, in a handwriting I recognized. I'll find the driver. I have to. My pulse hammered. Nathan hadn't told me any of this, not that he had a sister, not that he'd lost her, not that he was looking for the person responsible, wasn't healing from an accident, was hunting for the truth, and maybe for revenge. But the worst part, this wasn't the twist. The real twist came 30 seconds later, when I heard a soft thud behind me. Nathan stood in the doorway, drenched from rain, breathing hard, eyes wild with something between panic and betrayal. Emily, he whispered. What are you doing here? I came because you missed your appointment, I said, my voice shaking. I was worried. His jaw clenched. A muscle twitched. You shouldn't be here. You left the door unlocked, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Nathan, what is all this? Who is? Don't, he cut in sharply, stepping toward me. Emily, please. Don't ask. Why not? I demanded. Why didn't you tell me about your sister? About the hit and run? About what you're doing? Nathan, this is huge. His eyes flicked to the folder, then back to me. I didn't want you to see this part of me. What part? The part that can't let go, he whispered. The part that isn't healed. The part that keeps going back to the worst night of my life. My heart twisted painfully. You should have told me. I didn't want to lose you, he said. Something in me broke open. You weren't going to lose me, I whispered. But you will if you shut me out like this. For a second, just a second, he looked like he might tell me everything, everything he'd been carrying, everything he'd been running from, everything that had shaped the man I'd fallen for. But then his expression shuddered, the walls went back up. I don't deserve you, he said quietly, and before I could speak, he turned away, not fully. Not dramatically, just enough to make me feel the distance like a sharp, unexpected wound. Nathan, I breathed, stepping forward. Please don't do this. He didn't answer, he just whispered, please go. I didn't want to, God, I didn't want to, but something in his voice, a small, breaking thing, told me pushing harder would only drive him farther away. So I walked to the door. Before I stepped out, I looked back at him one last time. He didn't move, didn't look at me, didn't breathe, and for the first time since I'd met Nathan Hale, I felt truly scared. Not of him, of what he was hiding, of what it meant, who he could become if the truth swallowed him whole. I spent the next 3 days pretending I was fine, pretending I wasn't thinking about the folder on Nathan's desk, pretending I wasn't imagining the woman in the photograph, his sister, smiling at a camera she'd never see again. Pretending the sound of his voice when he said please go wasn't stuck in my chest like a splinter I couldn't pull out, but pretending doesn't make the pain smaller. It just postpones it. Nathan didn't text me, not that night, not the next day, not at all. And I didn't text him first, not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't know what I was walking into. Was he angry, ashamed, trying to protect me, done with me? All I knew was that the distance hurt more than I expected. It wasn't supposed to be like this. We're supposed to be learning each other, opening up, becoming something real. Instead, he shut a door I thought I'd finally gotten close to opening. By the fourth day, I cracked. I typed a message, "Can we talk?" I deleted it, typed again, "I'm worried about you." Deleted it. Finally, I sent something simple, "I'm here." No response. The silence didn't just worry me, it terrified me, because the last time I saw Nathan, he looked like a man drowning, and letting the water take him. On the fifth day, a storm rolled in. Baltimore has a way of turning storms into something dramatic: thunder loud enough to rattle windows, wind that carries the faint smell of the harbor up through the streets, rain that falls in sheets rather than drops. Was closing up the clinic early because the city issued a flood warning when someone knocked on the glass door, hard, insistent. I turned, and my heart stopped. Nathan, soaked to the bone, hair plastered to his forehead, breathing like he'd run the whole way. I unlocked the door. "Nathan." He didn't let me finish. "I'm sorry," he said, voice raw, trembling. "Emily, I'm so damn sorry." Before I could react, he pulled me into his arms, rain-drenched jacket and all, pressing his forehead to my temple like he was checking to make sure I was real. "I shouldn't have pushed you away," he whispered. "I shouldn't have shut down. I shouldn't have, Nathan." I cupped his face. "You're here. Just breathe." He tried, failed, tried again. It was like watching someone fight their own lungs. "Come inside," I said softly, guiding him to the chair in the waiting area. He sat heavily, elbows on his knees, hands shaking. And then he said something that made my stomach twist. "I thought I could keep you out of it. But I can't. Not anymore." He didn't start with details, he started with silence, the kind of silence that feels like the world is holding its breath. Then, slowly, "She wasn't supposed to be there." My heart clenched. "My sister," he said. "Sarah. She wasn't supposed to be on that road that night. She was picking up medicine for her daughter. And the driver," he didn't stop. His jaw tightened, he didn't even slow down. I reached for his hand. He didn't pull away. "I didn't know how to live with that," Nathan said softly. "So I didn't. I left everything, my job, my hometown, my friends, everything that reminded me of her. I came here because I don't know. I thought maybe distance would make it hurt less. But it didn't," I whispered. He shook his head, "No." And after months of trying to pretend I was okay, I realized I couldn't move on without answers. "So you're looking for the driver," I said. "The one who hit her." His eyes lifted to mine. "Pain, guilt, exhaustion, it's all I think about." And there it was, all the darkness he'd been carrying, heavy as the rain still pounding outside. "I wanted to tell you," he said. "Every time I looked at you, I wanted to. But you're the first good thing in my life since losing her, and I didn't want you tangled in something this ugly." My throat tightened. "I don't care how ugly it is," I said. "I care about you." He closed his eyes, and for the first time, a tear slipped down his cheek. Nathan wasn't the type to cry. I knew that instinctively, so watching that single tear fall felt like witnessing a fracture finally give way. He leaned into my touch, breathing shaky. "I'm scared," he whispered. "Of what?" I asked gently. "Of who I'm becoming." When the storm eased, I offered to walk him home. He hesitated, but eventually nodded. We stepped outside into streets washed clean by the rain, the city lit by reflections on wet asphalt. He walked quietly beside me, hands deep in his pockets, shoulders tense but lighter than they'd been earlier. Halfway to his apartment, he stopped. "This is where it happened," he said suddenly. I blinked, confused. "Your accident?" He nodded toward a stretch of road I'd driven down 100 times without noticing anything special about it. "This intersection." I looked closer. A cracked traffic light. A faded crosswalk. A patch of guardrail with scrapes on the metal. Another driver ran the light, Nathan said quietly. "Clipped the side of my truck. Spun me out. I hit the curb." He pointed to a dark scuff mark on the concrete, but the other car didn't stop, he said. Just like the one that hit Sarah. Something cold ran down my spine. You think it's the same person? I whispered. Nathan's jaw flexed. I don't know. But the way he said it, he did know. Or at least he feared it. Why didn't you tell the police? I asked. He slipped his hand into his jacket and pulled out a small envelope. Inside it, a photograph. A blurry shot of a sedan, dark gray, dent on the left front bumper. I did, he said. They're still investigating. But they don't have enough. No plate number. No clear ID. They told me to move on. His voice hardened. I can't. My breath caught. Nathan, you think the person who hit your sister is here? In Baltimore? He swallowed. I think they might live within a few miles of me. The wind cut through me. This wasn't just grief, this wasn't just guilt, this was obsession, fear, darkness, a man trying to fill the void with answers he might never get. But before I could speak, a car turned onto the street behind us, slow, too slow. Nathan stiffened beside me. The headlights washed over us. The engine made a sound, a soft rumbling idle. Nathan, I whispered. Are you okay? His eyes didn't blink, didn't move, just stared at the car as it rolled past us, and my heart thudded painfully. The driver didn't look at us, didn't slow, but Nathan stared at the taillights until they disappeared. When they did, he exhaled shakily, as if he'd been holding his breath. It looked like the same model, he murmured. My skin prickled, and in that moment, that quiet, trembling moment, I realized something important. This wasn't over, not even close. Nathan wasn't just searching for answers, he felt like the truth was circling him already, watching, waiting, and one day soon, it was going to collide with him again, in a way neither of us was prepared for. For the rest of that week, I lived in two worlds, one where life looked normal, greeting patients at the clinic, answering phones, pretending I wasn't constantly glancing at the door, waiting for Nathan to walk in, and another where nothing felt normal at all, where the truth about his sister, the accident, the photograph, and that gray sedan hovered at the edges of my every thought like a storm cloud refusing to dissolve. The line between those worlds blurred more and more each day. But things truly began to unravel on a night that should have been ordinary. A quiet Friday evening. A movie on low volume. A cup of tea on my bedside table, rain tapping softly against my window, and then, a knock, sharp, urgent. Wrong, I froze. 01 knocked on my door at night. 01 came unannounced. My heartbeat stuttered, but something deeper, instinct, told me exactly who it was. I opened the door halfway. Nathan, but not the Nathan I knew. He was pale, shaking, eyes wide and unfocused. He breathed. I didn't know where else to go. I pulled him inside, shutting the door quickly, my pulse pounding. Nathan, what happened? He sank onto my couch like his bones couldn't hold him. It's getting worse, he whispered. What is? He dragged both hands down his face. Everything. The memories. The nightmares. The car. The feeling like someone is always, always there. He looked around the room as if checking for shadows. Nathan, I said softly, look at me. He lifted his eyes, stormy, exhausted, unraveling. I think someone is watching me. The words hit me like ice water. I sat down beside him, but didn't touch him yet. Not until he looked ready. Why do you think that? I asked. He let out a shaky breath. Yesterday, I found a note under my windshield. My stomach tightened. A note? What did it say? His voice turned hollow. Let it go. I blinked. What? He nodded. 2 words, no signature. Just that. And I swear, I swear someone was following me when I left the grocery store tonight. A car. Same color. Same sound. The gray sedan, the one from the accident, the one he feared. A chill crawled up my spine. Nathan, did you call the police? No, his voice was sharp, immediate. They'll think I'm imagining it. They already think I'm obsessed. And maybe I am, but that doesn't mean I'm wrong. He scrubbed a hand over his jaw. Every time I try to move forward, something pulls me back. Harder. Silence stretched between us, heavy, terrifying. Then, gently, I reached for his hand. his fingers tightened around mine instantly, like he'd been drowning and finally grabbed the surface. "You're not alone," I whispered, shook his head. "You don't understand. If this person is connected to my sister, if they know I'm looking," his voice cracked, "they might come after me. They might already be." I swallowed. "And you came here," I said softly. "To me." His eyes closed. I didn't know where else to go. It happened quietly, the way important moments often do. Sat on my couch, the lamp casting warm light, rain murmuring against the windows, his breath slowly falling into rhythm with mine, and then, in a voice that sounded like it had been waiting to be spoken for weeks, he said, "I think I'm falling for you." My heart stopped, actually stopped. "Nathan, I know it's not the right time," he continued, voice trembling. "I know my life is a mess, and I know I'm a mess. But when things get dark, and they do, the only person I want to run to is you." I felt something inside me collapse and rebuild all at once. Softly, I touched his cheek. "I'm falling for you too." His breath hitched, then he leaned forward, slow, hesitant, as if he feared I'd pull back. I didn't. Our lips met like a sigh, gentle at first, then deeper, the kind of kiss that isn't about passion as much as it's about relief, about belonging, about finally letting go of 1,000 unspoken fears. Nathan exhaled shakily when we parted, his forehead resting against mine. "I don't deserve this," he murmured. "You do," I whispered back. "You deserve more than you believe." For a moment, a beautiful, fragile moment, he looked at peace. But peace is not a permanent state, not for him, not with everything circling us, because that night, the storm returned, and not the one outside, the one at his door. Nathan collapsed against the floor as if the weight of the last few months, the years before that, and the memories he couldn't escape all pressed down on him at once. I knelt beside him, hands on his shoulders, trying to anchor him, trying to breathe for both of us. "It's okay," I whispered. "You're not alone." He shook his head violently. "You don't understand. I can't just. The police. The accident, my sister, it's all tangled." I gritted my teeth. "Nathan, I know it's tangled. But we can untangle it together. I'm not going anywhere." For the first time, he let himself lean against me. Not fully relaxed, nothing about him ever was, but enough to let me feel the trembling beneath his skin. The officer outside knocked again. Louder this time. "Mr. Hale. Open the door." Nathan flinched, and I could feel him tense against me. I rubbed his back soothingly, then whispered, "I'm right here. Just trust me. Just a little longer." After a long, tense moment, Nathan finally managed to stand. With my support, he walked to the door and cracked it open slightly. The officer's expression softened when he saw how pale and shaken Nathan was. But his words were direct. "Mr. Hale, we're following up on your sister's case. There's new evidence. We need to ask you some questions." Nathan's jaw tightened. "I've told you everything I know." "I know," the officer replied gently. "But this is urgent." He stepped aside, motioning Nathan to step into the hall. I watched him go, hand gripping mine tightly. There was fear there, yes, but also a strange resolve I hadn't seen before. The hunter in him was awake again, stayed in the apartment, pacing the small living room, every sound from the hallway making my heart leap. 15 minutes passed. 20. Then Nathan returned, face pale, but his eyes sharp. "They found something," he said, voice tight. "Something that could finally tell us who did it." "Anne. I might have to go back there." "Back where?" I asked, dread curling in my stomach. "To the accident scene. The one where Sarah, where everything started." I didn't let him go alone. We drove there together, the streets wet from a recent rain, the city silent except for the hum of the tires against asphalt. Nathan's hands were tight on the steering wheel, knuckles white. Every red light felt like a trap. Every shadow along the curb made him flinch. When we reached Light Street, I could see the faint outline of the guardrail, the cracked pavement, the faint scuff marks that had haunted Nathan for years. He got out of the car, pacing slowly along the edge of the road, staring at the faded crosswalk. Then he turned to me. "This is it. I have to do this. Alone. I shook my head. No. Not alone. Not anymore. He looked at me, a flicker of surprise in his eyes, then nodded. Okay. Together. We walked down the stretch of road where everything had happened. I could feel the history embedded in the asphalt, in the cracks, in the faint, invisible lines of memory Nathan carried. His sister's accident. His own crash months later. The gray sedan. The notes. The fear. It was like walking through someone else's life, one mistake, one moment, one loss at a time. We stopped near the guardrail. Nathan's eyes scanned the street, then the small alley to the right. He froze. There, he whispered, pointing toward a shadowy figure standing under the flickering streetlight. A man. Mid-30s. Dark hair. Hands in pockets. Watching. Nathan's breath hitched. It's him. It's him. I felt my stomach drop. Who is him? He's the one who hit Sarah. I'm sure of it. The figure stepped forward slightly, revealing a face partially illuminated by the light. Nathan's eyes narrowed. That's him. Do we call the police? I asked. Nathan shook his head. No. Not yet. I need to know. I need to see if he remembers. If he knows I'm here. My hand tightened around his. Nathan, be careful. He nodded and took a step forward. The man looked up. Recognition flickered in his eyes, but before either of us could speak, he bolted down the alley. Nathan cursed under his breath. Without thinking, he ran after him. I followed, heart pounding, dodging puddles, trying to keep up. The chase was chaotic, slippery, tense. The man twisted into another alley, and Nathan nearly tripped over a broken crate. I grabbed his arm. Don't risk it. He looked at me, eyes wild. I have to know. I have to see him. Finally, the man stumbled into a dead end. Nathan cornered him. He breathed. You hit my sister. The man blinked, fear spreading across his face. I didn't mean to. I didn't. Nathan's hands shook. Rage and grief mixed in his voice. You took her from me. Before Nathan could act, I stepped forward, placing a hand on his chest. Stop. Don't become him. Don't let her death make you into a monster. He froze, breathing heavy, staring at the man who had destroyed his life. For the first time, I saw the weight of all the years, all the grief, all the rage, crashing over him. The man, terrified, dropped to his knees. I'll turn myself in. Please. I'm sorry. Nathan's shoulders sagged. His chest rose and fell. I could feel the fight drain from him, replaced by exhaustion. I whispered, it's over. You don't have to carry this alone anymore. He looked at me, tears in his eyes. I don't know how to let go. Step by step, I said. Together. Finally, he nodded, allowing the police, who we'd called earlier, to arrive and take over. For the first time in years, Nathan exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding, walked back to the car in silence, rain slicking the streets. His hand found mine again, and this time, neither of us let go. You're incredible, he said quietly. No, I whispered. You are. You faced it. You didn't let it swallow you. He smiled, small but genuine. And you never left my side. I laughed softly, leaning into him. Never. That night, we returned to my apartment, exhausted, soaked, but somehow lighter. The storm outside had cleared, leaving the city washed clean, reflecting lights in puddles like a promise. Nathan sat on the couch, hand in mine, staring out the window. I don't know what comes next, he admitted. We'll figure it out, I said. One day at a time. No more running. No more hiding. He nodded, finally relaxed for the first time since I met him, and for the first time, I believed him. The days after the confrontation were surreal. Nathan finally let himself breathe. He no longer carried the unrelenting tension of a man haunted by his sister's death. But the weight of years doesn't vanish in a single night. It lingers, like shadows on a wall, and we learned together how to live with them instead of running. He didn't speak about the chase immediately. The police had taken the man into custody, confirming he had indeed been involved in Sarah's accident. Nathan's sister had finally received a sense of justice, however delayed. And Nathan, well, he finally allowed himself to start untangling his grief. At first, our days were simple: morning coffee, the commute to the clinic, soft smiles over breakfast, the occasional quiet walk along the harbor. Every small routine was a victory. Every laugh a reminder that life could still hold light, and slowly, love blossomed between us, not the reckless, impulsive kind, but the steady, enduring kind. The kind that grows stronger after the storm, not before it. One Thursday evening, Nathan and I walked along the wet streets near the harbor. Rain fell softly, not the harsh, punishing kind that had chased us weeks before, but gentle and cleansing. The city smelled alive, fresh, as if even the asphalt had been washed clean of grief. We stopped near a small pier. The water reflected streetlights like scattered diamonds. "Nathan," I said, voice soft, "do you feel lighter?" He smiled faintly, gaze on the water. "A little. I think, for the first time in years, I'm not afraid of moving forward." I reached for his hand. "You're not alone anymore. And you won't be. Not with me." He looked at me fully for the first time in weeks, eyes steady, no longer stormy, no longer haunted. And then, quietly, he said, "Emily, I think I love you." My heart leapt. I had never felt the weight of those words so intensely. I cupped his face in my hands. "I love you too," I whispered. The rain fell around us, not dampening the moment, but magnifying it, drumming a soft, persistent rhythm, like a promise, like a heartbeat. Weeks passed. Life resumed its rhythm. Nathan returned to his job, cautiously rebuilding his life in Baltimore. I continued at the clinic, now seeing the world differently, noticing moments, appreciating life's fragile beauty, and holding Nathan's hand through every small and significant step. Then, one evening, as we walked along the harbor, the same place where our first night together had changed everything, he stopped abruptly. "Emily," he said, voice serious but warm. I turned, curious. He dropped to one knee. The words tumbled out, raw and sincere. "I don't have the perfect life. I don't have everything figured out. But I have you. And I want you with me for every storm, every calm, every moment in between. Will you marry me?" Tears filled my eyes, but I laughed softly through them, the sound full of relief, love, and joy. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, Nathan. 1,000 times yes." He smiled, slipping the ring onto my finger, holding my hand as if he never wanted to let go, and I realized, in that instant, that love like ours, turbulent, scarred, tested by shadows, could endure anything. Because we had endured everything already. Months later, as we settled into life together, a letter arrived, unmarked, plain. We opened it together, curiosity mingling with wariness. Inside, a simple note: "Thank you for stopping the past from taking everything. You gave him a chance to live, to love. We won't forget." We didn't know who sent it. Police? A witness? Someone who had been silently following Nathan's quest for justice? It didn't matter. The message was clear: the shadows that had once haunted him were retreating, and now, we could finally look forward. Remember that night vividly, the quiet of the apartment, the smell of rain lingering on the windowsill, Nathan asleep beside me, steady breathing, safe. Traced my finger along his arm, marveling at how far we'd come, from strangers burdened by past grief, to two people learning to trust, to lovers finding joy in stolen moments, to partners ready to face life's unknowns together. And Baltimore, once a city of in-between, felt like home, not because the city changed, but because we had changed, because the storms we survived had taught us how to stand together. Whispered into the quiet, a soft promise: no more running. No more hiding. Just us. Always. Nathan stirred, muttered my name, and held my hand a little tighter, and I believed him. I believed us. For the first time in a long time, the world felt right, because love, like quiet thunder, intense, unpredictable, life-changing, had found us. And we would carry it with us, forever.